Picture this. The biggest IPO in the history of human civilization is about to happen. Not Amazon, not Apple, not Saudi Aramco, SpaceX, a $2 trillion company built by a man California drove out, is about to ring the opening bell on Nasdaq. And the state that let it go, Sacramento, is already calculating its cut of the windfall. But here's the part nobody is saying out loud. California may collect billions from this IPO, while the company, the headquarters, and the future all belong to Texas now. And the thousands of workers who built SpaceX from a dream in Hawthorne, word is a lot of them are quietly packing up too. So what does your city, your state, and your future look like when the government drives away the very thing it now desperately needs? That's what we're getting into today. What do you think? Does California deserve a single dollar from this IPO after everything it did? Drop that in the comments right now. And if you want more stories about how government decisions are hitting your wallet directly, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is built for. SpaceX filed its public S-1 with the SEC in May 2026. The roadshow starts the week of June 8th, with IPO pricing expected around June 18th. Trading begins on Nasdaq under the ticker SPCX. Target valuation, $1.75 to $2 trillion. Target raise, $75 billion, the largest IPO in history. To put that in perspective, Saudi Aramco currently holds the IPO record with a $29 billion raise in 2019. SpaceX is targeting more than double that. And Musk himself, when asked if the reports were accurate, said on X simply, "As usual, Eric is accurate." 4 words. That's all it took to detonate the financial world. Now let's talk about the government's role in all of this, because it is embarrassing. SpaceX has been headquartered in Hawthorne since 2008. The company grew to roughly 13,000 employees and was the second most valuable startup in the world. California had one of the greatest aerospace anchors in modern history sitting right in its backyard. And what did Sacramento do with it? It taxed it. It regulated it. And then it insulted the man who built it. In 2017, SpaceX made a deal to stay in Hawthorne through 2022, as long as the city reduced certain taxes. The agreement included a $260,000 cap on annual business license fees. That's right. The state had to bribe SpaceX just to stay put. And even that wasn't enough, because Governor Gavin Newsom kept signing bills that made California less and less livable for families and businesses alike. When Musk finally announced he was leaving, Newsom responded by posting a screenshot of Trump saying he could make Musk drop to his knees and beg, tagging it with the words, "You bent the knee." That was the governor of California's response to losing one of the most valuable companies on the planet. A social media taunt, no plan, no apology, no accountability. And sources close to Sacramento are now whispering something truly remarkable: that Newsom's inner circle privately knew SpaceX was leaving years before the public announcement and chose to do nothing because they believed the company was too operationally dependent on Hawthorne to actually leave. They gambled. They lost. And you're paying for it. Now, with the IPO filing live, insiders are circulating a theory that Newsom is quietly lobbying the Biden-era IRS rules on equity compensation, trying to ensure California can claim taxes on SpaceX employees who've already left the state. Think about that. California can't keep the company, can't keep the jobs, but it's working overtime to keep its hand in employees' pockets, even after they're gone. California has some of the most aggressive sourcing rules for equity compensation in the country. SpaceX alumni who built their equity grants at the Hawthorne hub and later moved to Miami or Austin could still owe California taxes on a portion of their IPO windfall. The state that drove them out is now chasing them across state lines for the gains from a company it failed to keep. Here's what Musk actually said and what it means. When pressed on X about the IPO, he confirmed it was happening. He also pushed back hard on critics who claimed SpaceX was a government-subsidized operation, writing, "While I have great fondness for NASA, they will constitute less than 5% of our revenue next year. Commercial Starlink is by far our largest contributor. That matters because the narrative California politicians love, that Musk built this on taxpayer money, is falling apart in real time. SpaceX is seeking to raise more than $75 billion. Musk controls the company and will hold roughly 85% of its shares. For the 3 months ending March 31st, 2026, SpaceX generated revenue of $4.69 billion. Since founding in 2002, SpaceX has cracked the code on accessing space at scale, transforming an industry characterized by decades of stagnation and economically perverse cost structures. But not everyone is celebrating. CalPERS, the California Public Employees Retirement System, along with the controllers of New York City and state, sent a letter charging that the registration statement would constitute the most management-favorable governance structure ever brought to U.S. markets at this scale. One securities attorney called it flat out, "It's crazy." And the rumor mill inside Silicon Valley is spinning hard right now. Word is that at least 3 of SpaceX's top engineering executives, engineers who built the Falcon 9 from scratch in Hawthorne, have already purchased homes in Austin and are planning to relocate the moment the post-IPO lockup period expires. Nobody's confirmed it, but the pattern is undeniable. Sources say the internal quiet period SpaceX put its employees under in late 2025 wasn't just regulatory, it was strategic. The company reportedly didn't want a wave of public employee commentary, revealing just how many of its core team had already mentally and physically checked out of California. This is the part that nobody in Sacramento wants to talk about, because this isn't just about billionaires and stock tickers. This is about the people of Hawthorne. It's about the sandwich shops, the dry cleaners, the daycare centers, the apartment buildings that grew up around 13,000 SpaceX employees showing up to work every single morning. Analysts estimated that Musk moving SpaceX and Twitter out of California could cost the state at least $15 billion a year in lost tax revenue, threatening to push an additional 500 of California's highest tax-paying families out with it. Let that number land. $15 billion gone. Not from some abstract fund, from schools, from roads, from public services that working families in Hawthorne, in Compton, in Long Beach depend on every single day. And now, with the IPO lockup clock ticking, financial advisors in the LA area are privately warning that a second exodus is coming. A 90-day lockup from a mid-June listing places the earliest post-lockup sales in September or October 2026. The same calendar year as IPO. The result is income stacking. The marginal tax rate on the last dollar of 2026 income in California can exceed 50%. 50%. So engineers sitting on life-changing equity are being told, quietly but clearly, if you stay in California when those shares vest, the state takes half. Sources close to several SpaceX employee groups say the conversations happening right now in Hawthorne are gut-wrenching. People who've spent 10, 12, 15 years building rockets, people who bought homes in the South Bay, whose kids go to school there, whose parents live nearby, are sitting at kitchen tables doing the math. And the math keeps telling them the same thing it told Morton Salt, Boeing, Caterpillar, and Citadel. Leave. At least 6 California billionaires have already made moves to leave or restructure ahead of the state's proposed wealth tax. Chamath Palihapitiya wrote on X that several of his billionaire acquaintances, together worth an estimated $500 billion, had scrambled and left California for good. The people who will feel this the most are not billionaires. They're the families in Hawthorne and Inglewood and El Segundo who've built their entire economic lives around the aerospace cluster SpaceX helped anchor. Nobody sent them a press release. Nobody gave them a seat at the table when these decisions were made. But they'll feel every single departure in their neighborhood, in their schools, in their property values. Here's the picture forming right now, and it should unsettle you no matter what state you live in. SpaceX's roadshow begins the week of June 8th. IPO pricing is expected around June 18th. The 5 underwriting banks, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley are all lined up. The biggest IPO in human history is days away. And California's plan is to cash in on the exit. California anticipates a windfall from SpaceX's record-setting IPO, potentially generating billions in tax revenue from employees with equity in the company, even those who've already left the state. Word circulating in Sacramento, unconfirmed but coming from multiple legislative staffers, is that Newsom's team is already drafting language to expand California's equity sourcing rules even further, to capture more of the IPO gains from former residents. In other words, they drove the company out, they can't stop the workers from leaving, but they're building a legal trap to tax the exit. Meanwhile, in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is expected to host a formal celebration event when SpaceX begins trading on Nasdaq. Starbase is a city now, literally incorporated. SpaceX's Texas operations have already created more than 3,000 jobs, according to a 2024 economic impact report. Those are jobs, tax dollars, families, and futures that California handed to Texas for free. So here's where we land. The biggest IPO in history is about to happen. The company that built it called California home for 16 years. And when the opening bell rings on Nasdaq, the confetti will fall in Texas. Gavin Newsom's response to all of this has been a social media post and a tax grab. No accountability. No acknowledgement that the policies he signed drove away a $2 trillion company, and no plan for the workers in Hawthorne who are now running the same numbers SpaceX ran and arriving at the same answer. If California can lose SpaceX, your city can lose whatever anchors it. This is not a California problem. This is a warning. Is your governor making the same mistakes Newsom made? Are companies in your city making quiet moves you haven't noticed yet? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell, because the next one is coming, and it will connect more dots than this one did. Stay sharp. Follow the money. We'll see you in the next one.